So I tell parents, we start talking about childproofing even at the time of birth. And this isn't so much a school issue, but you're talking about a childproofing in general. Questions we always ask at the well child visits are, do you have working smoke alarms? And the smoke alarms should have working batteries that are checked twice a year. Generally, the rule of thumb has always been when you change your clocks in the fall and spring. So make sure your smoke alarms working or checked regularly. Make sure the hot water is not too hot, that the temperature of the hot water should be no more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Essentially what that means, you should be able to turn your hot water tap on, let the hot water run for a few minutes, put your hand in it. If it's scalding hot, then by far the water is way too hot. But if we had to pick a number, it's 120 degrees or less. The time of scalding between water being 120 degrees and 130 degrees for a child is very significant. It's just a matter of minutes from when they would get scalded. If the water is cooler, is much longer. So we recommend 120 degrees. We do recommend gun safety, so we don't judge about gun ownership, but our advice is if there's guns in the home, they should be locked up in a gun safe, ammunition stored separately with triggers, gun lock triggers, or triggers on, or locks in the triggers. So guns should be locked up in a gun safe with trigger locks in place at all times and ammunition stored separately. So those are three real basic things. The second thing we talk about, even when kids are even down to 9 to 12 months of age, is getting down to their level. Once your child starts rolling or crawling, they can get into stuff, and by normal development, everything goes in their mouth. So I tell parents to crawl around the ground or get the kids eye level and see what kind of trouble they can get into. So that means covering plugs, moving cords, gating steps, locking windows, watching doors, anything they can fall down, roll over, trip on, pull, if they have a lamp cord hanging out, they can pull on as they try to stand up. We don't want a lamp falling on their head, so everything needs to be secured. Many parents have a safe place, a little part of a room or that they've sort of partitioned off, even though there's really not a lot of trouble they could get into. Because I said everything goes in these kids' mouth. It's even more important when they have older siblings. So you may have a 1-year-old who has a 4-year-old sibling who may have very age-appropriate toys like Legos or a classic, which may be okay for a 4-year-old. We don't want a 1-year-old putting small pieces of toys like Legos in their mouth that may choke or aspirate. So childproofing with a second or third child is even more important because you have kids at other various levels of development, and their ability to stay safe is different. So that's a big one, is childproofing, surveying the whole house, and that should be an ongoing process. Kids tend to gravitate to things they shouldn't get into, so plugs and cords and things. Of course, we recommend putting locks or latches on drawers and cabinets that kids shouldn't get into. Most parents have a Tupperware drawer or pot and pans that kids can rattle around in, but clearly anything with medicines, cleaners, soaps, poisons, matches or lighters should be up and out of reach. And those things need to be checked on a regular basis. It's always an important thing to have the poison control phone number at home as well, and a number for their pediatrician as well. So those are some real basic child proofing things in the house, and of course out of the house. We need to watch out for things like pools and ponds, which many people have. Those obviously, most states have specific rules about pools as far as having appropriate fencing. If there's we don't recommend trampolines, so many families have those, and just other things. Bike helmets are always a good idea, and required, but not by law yet, for kids riding their bicycles. So those are some very basic indoor and outdoor safety issues that families can start with when trying to childproof the home.